Fleet Commander ZHRETH stood on the bridge of his warship, looking at the small vessel floating in the darkness of space. His 4 eyes studied the strange ship with mild interest. It was ugly, blocky, built without any grace or beauty. The markings on its side meant nothing to him. "What is it?" he asked his second officer. "A colony ship, Commander. Our scouts say it belongs to a species called humans. They are new to space travel, weak, soft creatures with no natural weapons." ZHRETH clicked his mandibles in amusement. The Velkari Dominion had conquered 200 star systems. They had crushed species far more powerful than these humans. His people were born warriors with armored shells and razor-sharp claws. They had never lost a war in 10,000 years. "How many are aboard?" "Approximately 3,000. Many of them are young, children as they call them." ZHRETH waved one of his 4 arms dismissively. "They have entered our territory without permission. Destroy them." The second officer hesitated. "Commander, they appear to be lost. Their navigation systems are damaged. They have sent no hostile signals." "I did not ask for their situation. I gave an order." The second officer bowed his head and turned to the weapons console. ZHRETH watched as the targeting systems locked onto the helpless ship. Inside the colony vessel, a young girl named Maya was drawing pictures with her mother. They were going to a new world, her parents had told her. A place with blue oceans and green forests, just like the stories about Earth. She was excited to see real trees for the first time. She never saw the weapons fire that ended her life. The human ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. 3,000 lives were gone in an instant. Families, children, dreamers looking for a new home, all of them turned to ash and scattered atoms. ZHRETH felt nothing. These creatures were insects to him, less than insects. The Dominion had killed billions in their wars of conquest. What were 3,000 more? "Send a message to their nearest outpost," he commanded. "Tell them this is what happens when they enter Velkari space. Let them know their place in the galaxy." The message was sent. ZHRETH expected fear. He expected silence. He expected these weak humans to understand that they were nothing compared to the might of the Dominion. 3 days later, a response arrived. ZHRETH was eating his evening meal when his communications officer rushed into his quarters. The young Velkari looked terrified. "Commander, we have received a transmission from the humans." "Read it to me." The officer's voice shook as he spoke. "It contains coordinates and a timestamp, and these words, 'We received your message. We are coming to deliver ours.'" ZHRETH laughed. The sound echoed through his quarters like breaking glass. "Is that all? They think they can threaten us." "Commander, our intelligence suggests we should take this seriously." "Your intelligence is wrong." ZHRETH pushed away his food and stood up. "I have studied these humans. They are divided into dozens of factions. They fight amongst themselves constantly. They control only 12 star systems. Their military technology is generations behind ours." He walked to his window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the humans were making empty threats. It amused him. "They will make noise for a few weeks," he continued. "Their politicians will give angry speeches. Their media will demand action, and then they will forget. They always forget. Every weak species does the same thing." The communications officer did not look convinced. The tone of the message was unusual, Commander. It did not sound like posturing. "You worry too much. Return to your station." The officer left, but his words stayed in ZHRETH's mind longer than he wanted to admit. There was something about that message, something cold, something final. He pushed the thought away. The humans were nothing. They would do nothing. But across the galaxy, humanity was already moving. The news of the colony ship's destruction reached Earth within hours. It spread through the 12 human systems like wildfire. Every screen, every device, every public display showed the same footage. The colony ship, the weapons fire, the explosion. 3,000 names scrolled across screens on every human world. Names of fathers and mothers, names of scientists and workers, names of children who would never grow up. For one long moment, humanity was silent. The constant noise of human civilization, the arguments, the debates, the endless chatter, all of it stopped. And then something changed. On Mars, two political leaders who had not spoken in 20 years shared a drink and began making plans. In the asteroid belt, rival mining clans put aside generations of hatred. On Earth, military officers who had retired decades ago began putting on their uniforms again. No one gave the order. No one needed to. Every human understood what had happened. Every human knew what came next. The politicians who usually argued about everything suddenly agreed on a single point. The corporations who competed for profits began sharing resources. The generals who had fought each other in simulations began working together on real battle plans. Fleet Commander Zyatreth had made a calculation. He had looked at humanity and seen division, weakness, easy prey. He had not understood what he was looking at. He had not understood that humans fight each other because they have no one else to fight. He had not understood that when an outside enemy appears, everything changes. He had killed their children. In all of human history, nothing united them faster than a threat to their young. It was written in their blood, burned into their genes by a million years of evolution. Protect the children. Destroy anything that threatens them. Zyatreth had just made himself that threat. And across 12 star systems, in shipyards and factories and military bases, humanity began to prepare, not for negotiation, not for peace, for war. The deadliest species in the galaxy had just been awakened, and they were coming. Admiral Sarah Chen had not worn her uniform in 15 years. She had retired after the border wars, tired of fighting other humans over resources and territory. She had promised her daughter she would never go back. But her daughter had been on that colony ship. Now she stood in the command center of the newly activated Human Unified Military Command, surrounded by officers from every human faction. Earth Federation admirals stood next to Martian generals. Belt clan warriors shared tables with outer colony commanders. People who had been enemies for generations now worked side by side. "Report," she said, her voice steady despite the fire burning in her chest. "All human systems have responded," said Commander Jackson, a young officer from Mars. "Full military mobilization across all 12 systems. Every faction has committed their forces." Civilian response: overwhelming. Enlistment centers are overflowing. Factory workers are volunteering for double shifts. Scientists are abandoning their regular research to work on military projects. Chen nodded. She had expected this. She had seen it before during the old wars on Earth. When humans were threatened, truly threatened, they became something else, something terrifying. A Thessari diplomat named Korvax watched from the corner of the room. The Thessari were a neutral species, observers in galactic affairs. He had been sent to understand what was happening with humanity. He did not understand at all. "Admiral Chen," he said carefully, "may I ask a question?" "Go ahead." The Velkari Dominion controls 200 star systems. They have the largest fleet in the galaxy. Your species controls only 12 systems. By any reasonable calculation, you cannot win this war. Chen turned to face him. Her eyes were calm, but something behind them made Korvax want to step backward. "You're right," she said. "By any reasonable calculation, we lose." "Then why fight? Why not negotiate? The Velkari might accept payment. They might accept an apology. Surely that is better than destruction." "They killed our children." "Yes, but—" "You don't understand." Chen walked toward Korvax and he felt his heart beating faster. There is no version of reality where we don't respond to this. It's not about calculation. It's not about winning or losing. It's about what we are. What you are. We're the species that survived everything. Ice ages, plagues, predators. We survived because we never gave up. We never accepted defeat. We kept fighting until either we won or we were all dead. Korvax tried to process this, but surely in the face of certain defeat. There is no certain defeat. There is only the fight, and we will fight until there is nothing left of us or nothing left of them. Chen turned back to her officers. What's the status of our shipyards? Running at 300% capacity. We've converted civilian factories across all systems. New warships will be ready in weeks. Weapons development. An older scientist stepped forward. His name was Dr. Hassan, and he had spent 30 years studying theoretical physics. Now he was building weapons. We've opened the restricted archives, he said quietly. The technologies we deemed too dangerous to use, the things we decided no civilized species should ever build. Such as gravity bombs that can collapse a planet's core, biological agents designed to target specific species, dimensional weapons that tear holes in the fabric of space itself. He paused. We created these things during our internal wars. We banned them because we were afraid of what they would do to us. And now we are going to use them on someone else. Across human space, the transformation continued. On Earth, schools changed their programs. Children learned about the Velkari. They learned about the 3,000 people who had died. They learned that sometimes fighting was the only answer. On Mars, the famous red deserts were covered with new military bases. Ships that had been under construction for civilian use were stripped down and rebuilt for war. In the asteroid belt, the mining clans began extracting materials at rates that would have seemed impossible a month before. They worked without rest, pushing their bodies beyond safe limits. On the outer colonies, farmers and traders picked up weapons and trained. They were not soldiers, but they would become soldiers. They had no choice. A human journalist named Thomas Reed was embedded with the military to document the mobilization. He wrote in his report, "I have covered wars before. I have seen anger and fear and patriotism, but this is different. There is no celebration here, no flags waving, no songs being sung. These people are not excited for war. They are simply ready in a way that feels ancient, primal, like something that was always inside them has finally woken up." He interviewed a soldier named Maria Santos, a young woman from a small colony. She had lost her brother on the colony ship. "Are you afraid?" Reed asked her. "No. The Velkari have never lost a war. Neither have we, not really, not when it mattered." "What do you mean?" She looked at him with eyes that seemed much older than her face. "We fight each other because we have nothing better to do, but when something outside threatens us, when something hurts our families," she shook her head, "you should ask the Velkari if they're afraid, because they should be." In the Velkari Dominion, reports began arriving about the human mobilization. Intelligence officers presented their findings to the council. "They are arming themselves faster than any species we have observed," one officer reported. "Their industrial output has increased by orders of magnitude." "Impossible," said Council Leader Threx. "They do not have the resources." "They are using all their resources. They have stopped building anything that is not related to war. Their entire civilization has shifted focus." "For how long can they maintain this?" "We do not know. Their physiology is unusual. They require less rest than most species. They can push themselves beyond normal limits through something they call adrenaline, and they seem willing to sacrifice everything for this conflict." Threx clicked his mandibles nervously. "Send reinforcements to the border. Double our patrols. These humans may be more troublesome than Fleet Commander Zhreth expected. But in his private thoughts, Threx felt the first cold touch of fear. He had read the human message again and again. We are coming to deliver ours. There was no anger in those words, no threats, no negotiation. Just a promise. And somehow, that was more terrifying than anything he had ever faced. The first battle happened at the Corvin system, a Velkari outpost on the edge of their territory. The Dominion had stationed 30 warships there, each one larger than anything the humans had. The Velkari commander expected an easy victory. He was dead within 6 hours. The human fleet arrived without warning. Their ships were smaller, uglier, and fewer in number. But they moved with a coordination that surprised the Velkari sensors. They struck from multiple directions at once, targeting weak points that should have been hidden. When the first Velkari ship was destroyed, the commander ordered a counterattack. His warriors were the finest in the galaxy. They had trained for centuries. They knew every tactic, every strategy. The humans did not fight like any species the Velkari had encountered. A damaged human cruiser, its weapons destroyed and its engines failing, turned directly toward the Velkari flagship. The commander watched in confusion as the crippled ship accelerated. "What are they doing?" he asked. His officer checked the readings. "They are ramming us, Commander." "Ramming, that is suicide." "Yes, Commander." The human ship struck the flagship at full speed. Both vessels exploded in a ball of fire. 2,000 Velkari died instantly, along with the 300 humans aboard the cruiser. The commander had survived in an escape pod. He watched as his fleet fell apart. Human ships kept coming, kept fighting, kept dying. And for every human that died, they took Velkari with them. When reinforcements finally arrived, only 3 Velkari ships remained. The human fleet had been destroyed, but so had 27 Dominion warships. The reports spread through the Velkari military. For the first time in their history, officers began to feel something they had never felt before: doubt. Ambassador Korvax of the Thessari continued his observations. He traveled to the war zone, documenting everything he could. What he found changed his understanding of the galaxy forever. He interviewed a captured human soldier, a man named James Wright, who had been pulled from the wreckage of his destroyed ship. Wright was missing an arm and had burns across half his body. He should have been dying. Instead, he was sitting up and asking when he could return to the fight. "How are you still alive?" Korvax asked. "Humans are hard to kill. Your injuries are severe." "I've had worse." Wright's remaining hand clenched into a fist. "When are you going to let me out of here?" "You are a prisoner. You will be returned to your people when the war ends." Wright laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "The war won't end until we say it ends." Korvax leaned forward. "I have studied your species. I want to understand. How can you fight like this? How can you sacrifice yourselves so willingly?" Wright was quiet for a moment, then he spoke. "Do you know where we come from? Our homeworld, Earth." "I know of it. It's a death world. Everything there evolved to kill something else. Predators in the oceans, predators in the forests, predators in the skies, poison in the plants, disease in the water. The ground itself shakes and opens up to swallow you. The sky throws lightning and fire." "How did your species survive such a place?" "By being more dangerous than everything else." Wright's eyes grew hard. "We didn't just survive, we conquered. We killed the predators. We tamed the diseases. We bent the planet to our will. And then when there was nothing left to fight, we started fighting each other." "That seems inefficient." "Maybe, but it made us strong. We've been at war for our entire existence as a species. Every generation, every century, war after war after war. We got very, very good at it." Korvax felt a chill run through him. The Velkari are also warriors. "The Velkari are soldiers, there's a difference." Wright shifted in his bed, wincing at the pain. Soldiers fight because they're ordered to. They fight for territory or resources. They stop when the cost gets too high. And humans? We fight because we want to. We fight because something inside us needs it, and we never stop. Not when we're wounded, not when we're outnumbered, not when we're dying. He met Korvax's eyes. You want to know how we can sacrifice ourselves? Because dying in battle is not the worst thing that can happen to a human. Living with defeat is. Korvax's report to the Galactic Forum caused panic among several species. They have no natural weapons, he wrote. No claws, no shells, no venom. They are physically weak compared to most species. They require sleep, food, and water constantly. By every measure, they should be easy prey. But they are not. They have spent their entire existence fighting, against their planet, against other species, against each other. They have developed weapons of terrible power and the will to use them. They do not surrender. They do not negotiate once blood has been spilled. They pursue victory with a single-minded focus that borders on madness. Most species fight to gain something. Humans fight to destroy something. And once they have decided something must be destroyed, nothing in the galaxy can stop them. The Velkari Council read similar reports from their own intelligence officers. Battle after battle followed the same pattern. Human ships fought until they were destroyed. Human soldiers fought until they were dead. There were no retreats, no surrenders, only victory or death. And the humans kept coming. For every ship the Velkari destroyed, 2 more appeared. Human factories worked without stopping. Human workers pushed themselves beyond exhaustion. The entire species had become a single weapon, aimed directly at the Dominion. Council leader Threx called an emergency meeting. We must end this war, he said. These creatures are not normal, they are not rational, they will not stop. How do we end it? Asked another council member. They will not negotiate. Then we will crush them completely. We will send our entire fleet. We will burn every human world. We will leave nothing alive. The council agreed. They had no other choice. But as the orders went out, a quiet voice spoke from the back of the chamber. It was an old Velkari historian, one who had studied many species. You do not understand what you are doing, he said. You cannot defeat humans by killing them. They will keep fighting even when they have lost. They will fight with rocks and sticks if they have no weapons. They will fight with their bare hands. And if you kill them all, their allies will continue the fight. Their memory will become a weapon. Then what do you suggest? The old historian shook his head slowly. I suggest we should not have started this war, and I fear that we have already lost it. 3 years of war had changed the galaxy. The Velkari Dominion, once the most powerful empire known to exist, was crumbling. System after system fell to the human advance. 70 worlds that had flown the Dominion flag now burned under human occupation. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity, watching as another Velkari defense line collapsed. Her hair had turned gray over the past 3 years. Her face carried new lines, new scars, but her eyes still held the same cold fire that had burned since the day her daughter died. Status report, she said. The Velkari fleet is retreating toward their inner systems, said Commander Jackson. They've lost nearly half their total forces. Our latest intelligence suggests their industrial capacity has dropped by 60%. Civilian morale. On both sides, Admiral, our people remain committed. The Velkari, Jackson hesitated. There are reports of unrest. Their population is beginning to question the war. Chen nodded. This was expected. The Velkari had never fought an enemy like humanity. They did not know how to lose. They did not understand why these soft, weak creatures refused to accept defeat. On the Velkari homeworld, the council met in a chamber that had not been used in thousands of years. It was the Hall of Desperation, built for moments when the Dominion faced its darkest hours. No sitting council had ever needed to enter it. Until now. Council leader Threx looked at the faces around him. He saw fear. He saw confusion. He saw the beginning of something that terrified him more than anything else. He saw acceptance of defeat. "We must discuss terms," said one council member. "The humans have made it clear they will not stop. If we continue this war, we will lose everything." "Surrender," Threx's voice was hollow. "We have never surrendered, in 10,000 years of history, not once." "Then we will be the first." The council member spread his forearms. "Better to survive in shame than to be destroyed completely." A message was prepared. The council offered peace. They offered to return all captured human prisoners. They offered payment for the lost colony ship. They offered whatever the humans wanted. The response came within hours. Admiral Chen read it to her officers without emotion. "You began this by killing civilians, by killing children. You do not get to decide when it ends." "They rejected peace?" Jackson asked. "They rejected mercy." Chen turned to face her command staff. These were the men and women who had fought beside her for 3 years. They had lost friends, family, entire worlds. They had seen things that would haunt them forever. "The Velkari want to negotiate," she said. "They think this is about territory or resources. They think we want something they can give us." "What do we want, Admiral?" asked a young officer. "We want them to remember. We want every species in this galaxy to remember what happens when you hurt humanity. We want them to tell stories about this war for the next 10,000 years. We want the word human to mean something that makes their children afraid." She looked out at the stars. "We are not conquering them. We are teaching them, and the lesson will not end until we say it ends." On the Velkari homeworld, Fleet Commander Zhatreth sat alone in his quarters. He had been removed from command after the first year of the war, blamed for the disaster he had caused. Now he spent his days waiting for the end that he knew was coming. His people had tried everything: direct attacks, guerrilla warfare, assassinations, biological weapons. Nothing worked. The humans adapted to every strategy. They countered every tactic. They turned every Velkari strength into a weakness. And they never stopped coming. Zhatreth had studied the human advance. It was not just military conquest. The humans were systematic, methodical. They destroyed military targets with precision. They captured leaders and put them on trial. They broadcast these trials across the galaxy, showing every species what happened to those who harmed humanity. It was not war. It was extermination wrapped in the clothing of justice. A sound made Zhatreth turn around. His door was closed. His guards were outside. But there, standing in the corner of his room, was a human. A female, small, wearing black armor that seemed to absorb the light. She held a knife in one hand and a small device in the other. "How did you get in here?" Zhatreth asked. His voice was calm. He had accepted his fate long ago. "It doesn't matter. Are you here to kill me?" "Yes." Zhatreth stood up slowly. "I suppose I deserve it. I gave the order that started this war. You murdered 3,000 people. You murdered children." The human's voice was flat, empty. "Do you remember their names?" "No." "We do. We remember all of them, and we will remember forever." The human moved forward. Zhatreth did not try to run. There was nowhere to go. There had been nowhere to go since the moment he gave that order 3 years ago. "I want you to understand something," the human said. "This is not revenge. Revenge is emotional, messy. This is justice. This is consequence. This is the universe balancing itself." "Will my death end the war?" "No, your death is just a message." The knife moved faster than Zhatreth could follow. He felt a brief moment of pain, and then nothing. The human left a note beside his body, written in the Velkari language. 4 words that would spread across the Dominion within hours. "You should have left us alone." The news of Zhreth's assassination broke something in the Velkari spirit. He had been in the most protected building on their homeworld, surrounded by guards and security systems. And still, a single human had reached him. If they could kill Zhreth, they could kill anyone. The council met again, but this time there was no discussion of strategy or resistance. There was only the question of how to survive. "Send another message to the humans," Threx ordered. "Tell them we accept all their terms. Any terms. We will give them anything they want." The message was sent, but days passed with no response. The Velkari waited, and as they waited, they began to understand the terrible truth. The humans were not negotiating. They were not demanding anything. They were simply continuing the war until they decided it was over. And that decision had nothing to do with the Velkari at all. The war ended not with a treaty, but with silence. The Velkari Dominion, which had once ruled 200 star systems, now controlled only 4. Their homeworld and 3 small colonies. That was all that remained of the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. Admiral Chen stood on a platform above the ruins of the Velkari capital. Around her stood the surviving leaders of humanity. Behind them, a fleet of human warships filled the sky, blocking out the sun. Below, millions of Velkari watched in silence. Their warriors had been disarmed. Their ships had been destroyed. Their leaders had been captured and tried for their crimes. Those found guilty had been executed. Those found innocent had been released, but they would carry the shame forever. "This war is over," Chen announced. Her voice was broadcast across the planet and throughout the galaxy. Every species with communication technology heard her words. "5 years ago, you killed 3,000 of our people. You thought we were weak. You thought we would accept this crime and move on. You were wrong." She paused, looking down at the crowds of defeated aliens. "We have taken almost everything from you. Your empire, your military, your pride. We leave you your homeworld and 3 colonies because we do not want to destroy you completely. We want you to live. We want you to remember. We want you to tell your children and their children what happens when you harm humanity." In the crowd, a young Velkari named Krath listened with his father. He was too young to remember a time before the war. He had grown up hearing stories of defeat after defeat. Now he watched the conquerors stand over his world. "Father," he whispered, "will we ever be strong again?" His father was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice heavy with sadness and wisdom. "Perhaps someday, but we will never forget this. No Velkari will ever forget, and that is what they want. They have turned us into a lesson for the galaxy." Chen continued her speech. "To the other species watching this broadcast, learn from what you see today. We did not start this war. We did not want this war. But when our children were murdered, we finished it. Remember this. Remember what humans are capable of when we are united. Remember what happens when you hurt our families." She stepped back from the platform. The broadcast ended. The war was truly over. In the months that followed, the galaxy changed. The Thessari Collective, which had positioned warships near human borders for decades, quietly moved them away. Their ambassador sent a formal message of friendship to Earth, praising human culture and expressing hope for peaceful cooperation. The Krethnar Empire, a military power that had planned to eventually challenge humanity, destroyed those plans and sent a formal apology for a minor trade dispute from 50 years earlier. No one had even remembered the dispute until the Krethnar brought it up. The Galactic Forum, which had dismissed humans as unimportant newcomers, offered them a permanent seat on the High Council. The offer was accepted. Species that had never contacted humanity before now sent diplomats. They brought gifts. They spoke of trade agreements and mutual defense treaties. They smiled and bowed and did everything they could to show that they meant no harm. Because they had all watched what happened to the Velkari, and they were afraid. Ambassador Korvax of the Thessari wrote his final report on the human Velkari War. It was studied by leaders across the galaxy for generations. There are two kinds of civilizations in the galaxy, he wrote. Those who leave humanity alone and those who no longer exist. This is not a joke or an exaggeration. It is simply the truth. Humanity is the most dangerous species ever recorded, not because of their technology, which is average, not because of their numbers, which are small, not because of their physical abilities, which are unremarkable. They are dangerous because they do not know when to stop. They do not calculate costs and benefits like rational beings. They do not accept losses and move on. When they are hurt, they hurt back, and they keep hurting until there is nothing left of their enemy. My advice to any species reading this report is simple. Do not threaten humanity. Do not harm their people. Do not give them a reason to notice you. They are happy to be peaceful neighbors. They are happy to trade and cooperate and share technology. But if you attack them, if you hurt their families, if you kill their children, they will destroy you. And they will not feel bad about it afterward. On Earth, the victory celebrations were quiet. There were no parades, no festivals, no songs of triumph. People gathered in small groups, remembering those who had died. They visited memorials. They spoke the names of the 3,000 colonists who had started it all. Admiral Chen retired again, this time for good. She moved to a small house by the ocean and spent her days watching the waves. She never spoke publicly about the war again. When journalists asked her about her role in the greatest military victory in human history, she said only, "We did what we had to do, nothing more, nothing less." Commander Jackson, now an admiral himself, visited her once a year on the anniversary of the colony ship's destruction. They would sit together in silence, watching the sun set over the water. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Jackson asked her once. Chen was quiet for a long time. "I think we did the human thing, whether it was right or wrong. That's for history to decide." The galaxy moved on. Trade routes reopened. Diplomats negotiated new treaties. Species that had been enemies became cautious partners. A strange peace settled over the stars. But the memory remained. On the Velkari homeworld, children learned about the war before they learned anything else. They learned to respect humanity. They learned to fear what humans could do when pushed too far. They learned the lesson that had cost their ancestors everything. On distant worlds, in alien schools and military academies, instructors taught the same lesson. Don't start fights with humans. Don't threaten their families. Don't give them a reason to come for you. And on Earth, on Mars, on all the human worlds, life returned to normal. People went back to arguing about politics and sports and entertainment. The unity that had won the war faded, replaced by the usual human chaos. But everyone knew the truth. If another threat appeared, if another species made the same mistake the Velkari had made, the chaos would end, the arguments would stop, and humanity would become a single weapon once again. Because that was what humans were. They could fight each other for centuries without pause. But when an outside enemy appeared, when their children were threatened, everything changed. They became something else, something ancient and terrible and unstoppable. The deadliest species in the galaxy. And the galaxy would never forget.